The season begins inside a train. A man named Reese sits quietly on his seat. Suddenly, a group of thugs walks in and starts bothering him.
Huh? You want to see a real gun?
They mistake him for some harmless street guy and begin to act aggressive. But within moments, Reese steps in. With calm confidence and lightning-fast moves, he takes them all down one by one. In just minutes, he throws them to the ground and leaves them helpless. After the thugs are arrested and taken to the police station, Detective Carter watches the security footage of Reese fighting them. As she sees his swift and precise moves, she's clearly shocked. There is something about the way he fights because it's not normal. It's sharp, tactical, and professional. She walks into the interrogation room, curious and cautious. She begins questioning Reese, suspecting that he must have a background in special forces or some elite unit. His combat skills are just too refined for an ordinary person. Then, she asks him for his name. Reese, with a calm but guarded expression, replies that it seems like she's asking because he's in trouble. Just then, a man shows up at the station. He's there to get Reese released. Within moments, he pulls a few strings and gets Reese out, walking him right out of the police station, leaving Carter with more questions than answers. As Reese steps out of the station, he thanks the man who helped him, his temporary counselor. With a puzzled look, Reese asks him why he did all this. After all, they don't even know each other. The man simply replies that someone wants to talk to him. Without explaining much, he leads Reese far away from the city noise to a quiet spot near a river. And there, waiting for him, is a man named Mr. Finch. Mr. Finch calmly tells Reese that he knows everything about him. But Reese doesn't believe him. He stares back and says, Finch doesn't know him at all. That's when Finch starts reminding him of his past, that how Reese once worked for the government, how he was part of dangerous, covert missions. He talks about the things that eventually broke him. He reminds Reese of how, after some time, the same government began using him like a weapon, until Reese finally walked away. Finch reveals the most shocking part. The government believes Reese is dead. Reese is stunned. He wasn't expecting anyone to know so much, let alone a complete stranger. Then Finch gets to the point. He tells Reese he has a job for him, one that might just save his life. Finch takes Reese to New York City, a fast-moving, crowded place. Standing among the noise and energy of the city, Finch tells him something chilling, that every 18 hours, someone dies in New York. Reese stays calm and responds that bad things happen to people all the time. But Finch has a different perspective. He explains that many of these crimes don't just happen out of nowhere. They're planned weeks or even months in advance. And if someone knew who the target was before the crime happened, they could save a life. That's where Finch comes in. These people don't even know what's coming for them. Most of them are just regular, everyday people, and they all need help. Then, Finch points toward a woman buying coffee. Her name is Diane. Finch tells Reese that this woman is at the top of his list for the week. He explains that they don't know exactly what's going to happen to her or what role she plays in the coming event. She could be the victim or she could be the perpetrator. Finch says the system doesn't give much other than just a social security number. But even that's enough to stop something terrible if they act in time. That's where Reese comes in. Finch wants him to follow Diane, observe her, and figure out what's about to happen and stop it. Reese looks over at Diane. He watches her from a distance for a moment, studying her. Then, with a slight smirk, he tells Finch that maybe she's just involved in some kind of relationship drama. Maybe he is a jilted lover. Or maybe Diane is his ex-wife or secret girlfriend. He shrugs and says he's done because he's not interested. Before Finch can stop him, Reese disappears. He slips past Finch's guards effortlessly, vanishing into the city like a shadow. Reese returns to a hotel. He shaves, then lies on the bed with a drink in hand, slowly drifting off to sleep. Later, a noise wakes him up. As he reaches for his phone, he realizes one of his hands is tied to the bed. On the other end of the call is Finch, speaking to him calmly. Finch tells him he needs to understand something. The information they get might be incomplete, but it's never wrong. Finch explains that Reese should know what it feels like to have the knowledge that someone is going to die and still be unable to help them. That helplessness is what Finch wants him to grasp. Reese starts getting angry. Suddenly he hears someone outside the door. Without waiting, he breaks a mirror with the help of lamp and uses it to free his hand. Acting fast, he gets ready as he opens the room door. Inside, there's a speaker playing a recording. In the other room, Finch is sitting quietly. He tells Reese that he's already too late. The recording he just heard is from 3 years ago. In that very room, a woman was murdered by her husband for insurance money. Finch explains that Reese was too late to save her, just like he was too late to save his friend Jessica. She died while he was on the other side of the world, unable to do anything. Hearing Jessica's name shocks Reese. He grabs Finch and pushes him against the wall, anger rising in his eyes. He demands to know how Finch knows about her, but Finch stays calm. He tells Reese that he left the government because they lied to him, but Finch promises he will never lie to Reese. He says he believes Reese always wanted to save people, but the government used used him for its own goals. Reese finally lets him go. Reese picks up the recording and realizes it's a wiretap. That means Finch must have ties to the government or the NSA. He questions Finch directly. Finch replies calmly. He says he isn't part of the government. Reese can consider him a concerned third party. Then Finch says something more. He admits that maybe he couldn't save that woman, and Reese couldn't save Jessica either. But now, they have a chance to save Diane. Finch is giving him the opportunity to be there in time. Reese listens. Finch's words start to get through to him. Finally, Finch shows him a picture of Diane and looks at Reese. He says the real question, that will he be able to save her? Then, without waiting for an answer, Finch walks away. Finch shows Reese his office, the place where he operates everything behind the scenes. After that, both of them begin tracking Diane. As they follow her, Finch shares details about Diane's past life. Reese breaks into her house, silently and efficiently. He plugs a flash drive into her laptop and copies all the files. He also checks her medicine prescriptions, gathering as much information as he can. Later, he heads to the courthouse where Diane works as a prosecutor. There, he hacks into her phone without being detected. Afterward, they monitor Diane's apartment through hidden cameras. Reese updates Finch and explains that, given Diane's line of work, she could have many enemies, but he's narrowed it down to two potential threats. The first is her co-counselor Wheeler, someone she had been seeing for the past few months, but now she wants him to cut off from her life. The second is a man named Pope. Diane visits Pope in prison. She sits across from him and asks him directly about the truth. She believes he may not have killed the people he's being charged for. She suspects his younger brother Michael might be involved. It seems to her that Pope is protecting someone else by taking the fall. But Pope warns her. He says the people involved are extremely dangerous. If she keeps digging, they'll come for her. They'll kill both of them. Diane doesn't back down. She says she's going to bring them to justice. She knows they're still out there walking free. Pope loses his temper. He attacks her and tells her to stay away. If she doesn't, he and Michael will both end up dead. Reese meets Michael and tries to ask him a few questions about Pope, but Michael doesn't say anything. He keeps silent and quickly walks away. Before leaving, Reese secretly slips a mobile phone into Michael's bag. Through it, he can track his location and listen to his surroundings. A little while later, a group of men abducts Michael. As they begin to beat him, Reese arrives at the scene just in time. Reese quickly takes down the attackers and rescues him. But then Reese notices something strange, that the men he just fought are actually police officers. Everything starts to make sense. Michael and Pope are trying to escape the police, not because they're guilty, but because the real killers are inside the force itself. The police committed the murders and framed Pope to cover it up. Reese meets Finch and shares what he's uncovered. He believes the group involved are corrupt police officers. Their leader is Stills, who works in narcotics. Reese explains that they steal drugs, eliminate witnesses, and then pass the case on to Detective Fusco. After that, they plant false evidence and frame people like Pope, getting them arrested to cover their tracks. While monitoring Diane's apartment, Reese sees her receive a call from Stills. He tells her to meet him. Reese follows her to the meeting. As Stills pulls out his gun and fires at her, Diane suddenly lashes out at him. She yells at him angrily, and Reese realizes something critical, that Diane is not just involved. She is the real perpetrator. She's been part of the entire scheme. Diane tells Stills that their real problem is her counselor, Wheeler. He knows too much. She warns that they'll need to deal with Wheeler before he becomes a threat. The next day in court, Diane prepares to play a 911 call recording as part of the evidence. But as soon as she hits play, something unexpected happens. Reese has already replaced the recording. Instead of the original audio, Diane's own voice plays in the courtroom. In the recording, she is clearly threatening Wheeler, telling Stills to kill him. Her voice is cold, calculating. She warns that if he fails, she'll take care of Stills too, just like she had Pope killed in prison. Diane is stunned. Her face freezes in shock as the courtroom goes silent. After that, Reese confronts Detective Fusco and holds him at gunpoint. Fusco is also a corrupt cop, and Reese knows it. Reese gives him a choice that either start working for him from the inside, or he'll expose everything. All of Fusco's secrets, every dirty deal, every cover-up. Fusco, with no other option, agrees. Just like that, Reese gains access to the inner workings of the police department. All the case files, records, and confidential intel is now within reach. The next day, Reese calls Finch and says he handled the two men from last night who planned to kill a wealthy man. Later, they meet in person, and Finch shares the next case about protecting a 15-year-old girl named Teresa, who was declared dead 2 years ago. Despite that, Finch believes she might still be alive. So, Reese begins his search, digging into the incident from 2 years ago. He starts investigating the chain of events that led to the death of Teresa's entire family, in what appeared to be a tragic accident. Reese listens to the news report from that time. In it, Teresa's uncle explains how her father killed the entire family and then took his own life. He says the man was under immense financial pressure, but something about it doesn't sit right with Reese. He tells Finch that the whole thing feels more like a professional hit. not a murder-suicide. He believes the police missed something important, but the big question remains that where is Teresa? Finch suggests they look into Teresa's aunt, Elizabeth. There's a possibility Teresa may have gone to her. So, Reese heads off to find her and uncover more about what really happened. Finch visits Teresa's aunt, pretending to be from an insurance company. He learns that Teresa's body was never found, and the family buried an empty coffin, assuming the ocean took her during the beach incident. The aunt, still grieving, says she loved and misses Teresa deeply. Later, Finch tells Reese that the police might have been wrong and suggests Teresa could have run away and stayed with friends. Reese follows up, posing as a detective to question one of her old friends. But the boy grows defensive and insists Teresa died 2 years ago. Reese quietly pairs the boy's phone with his own before handing it back. Reese discovers a message he sent to Teresa. In it, he tells her that she needs to disappear. At that moment, Reese spots Teresa standing at a distance. He immediately starts following her, but she manages to slip away before he can catch up. After that, Reese meets Detective Fusco in his car. Reese had earlier forced Fusco to work for him at gunpoint. Now he questions Fusco about the crew possibly connected to Teresa's family's murder. Fusco tells him that if someone from that area was responsible, it would likely be a specific group. Reese heads straight to them, and after roughing up a few members, he finally gets the name of the man behind it all. The man's name is Slonick, and he is already in prison for another case. Reese visits him there and questions him about the family he killed years ago. He asks why he murdered them, and then dumped their bodies in the water. Reese threatens Slonick, warning that revealing his kill list will only make things worse. Slonick finally admits to killing Teresa's family, but claims he never harms children. He says the job came through a one-time contact whose name he doesn't know. Reese informs Finch, who suspects the people behind the hit now know Teresa is alive and may have hired someone else to finish the job. They need to find her fast. Just then, Finch says he might have found a lead. Teresa's father had recently done business with a company named Landale, so Reese begins investigating Landale's office from a distance. He updates Finch, saying that everything inside looks like normal office activity. But suddenly, Reese spots Teresa's uncle Derek inside the building. That's when he realizes something suspicious is definitely going on. On the other side, Finch manages to find Teresa's address and informs Reese. Reese heads there to locate her. When he finally meets Teresa, she immediately threatens him, warning him not to come any closer or she will attack him. Reese calmly tells Teresa he's there to protect her because someone wants her dead. Suddenly, a man attacks from behind. Reese barely saves them, shoots at the attacker, and escapes with Teresa. But the attacker, wearing a bulletproof vest, survives. Reese takes Teresa to his hotel and questions why she didn't go to her Uncle Derek after escaping. She says her father warned her because Derek was behind it all. The man who killed her father even said it was Derek's fault. That's why she hid with friends instead. Finch arrives and Reese leaves Teresa in his care. Then Reese meets Derek and bluntly asks if he had his own brother and family killed to seize their property and inheritance. Derek denies it. He explains that his brother believed this new project might change their lives. But they didn't have enough money, so Derek arranged a meeting between him and the Landale people. What he didn't know was that Landale was involved in shady business. When Teresa's father couldn't repay the money, they killed the whole family, so the land would go to Derek, who could transfer it to them. That land is now worth over 50 times more. Derek says they've kept him alive only because the land is in his name, for now. At this point, Reese pieces everything together. He tells Derek that now, since Teresa is alive, if this news comes out, all the property will legally go to her. Derek will be left with nothing. Reese rams a truck into the Landale owner's car, flipping it, then approaches the wreck. He warns the man to stop the hitman, but the man says it's too late because they've already found Teresa, and the killer is on the way. Reese quickly calls Finch, urging him to leave immediately. Finch grabs Teresa, and they rush to escape the hotel. Just as they reach the door, the killer shows up right outside the gate and points his gun at them, ready to shoot. But right at that moment, Reese arrives on the scene. He charges in and takes down the assassin just in time, saving Finch and Teresa. At the police station, Detective Carter meets Teresa. Carter gently asks her who saved her and why she never came forward all this time. But Teresa doesn't say anything. She stays quiet. Just then, her Aunt Elizabeth arrives. Teresa immediately runs to her and hugs her tightly. Elizabeth holds her close, and then she takes her home. The next day, Finch tells Reese that they have a new case. This time, it's about a soldier named Joey. He recently returned from serving in Afghanistan and is now working as a doorman, but his life is in danger. Reese starts tailing Joey. He also clones his phone to monitor his activity. One day, while following him, Reese watches Joey walk into a bank, pretending to check something casually. But suddenly, Joey puts on a mask and joins a group of armed men. Together, they rob the entire bank. They steal all the money, and Reese, lying on the ground with the rest of the civilians, quietly observes everything. After that, Reese tells Finch that Joey Joey is a bank robber, but Finch explains that all of Joey's previous activities have been non-lethal, and robbery doesn't usually fall under their case type. So they at least need to figure out why Joey is doing all this. Reese keeps following Joey and sees him meeting a woman. Joey gives her some money and talks to her briefly before leaving. Reese finds this strange because Joey already has a girlfriend. Now, it looks like he's involved with another woman too, which raises suspicion. Reese and Finch suspect Joey might harm a woman. When Reese sees him receive a cash-filled parcel from a taxi, Finch traces the cab to a bar owned by ex-Sergeant Major Sam. Reese visits Sam, earns his trust by posing as a fellow soldier, and is offered a job. That night, Sam calls and says Reese will meet the team. Instead, they kidnap him. Joey holds him at gunpoint, demanding answers. Reese claims he's just a soldier trying to survive after being abandoned by the government. Joey, convinced, lowers the gun and lets him join. Later, Reese sees Joey meet a woman with a child and updates Finch, asking for a background check on them. That night, Joey and his crew rob a casino while Reese watches from afar. Hearing police sirens through his synced radio, Reese quickly warns them. The crew grabs what they can and escapes just before the police arrive, saved by Reese's timely alert. The next day, Reese meets Joey and tells him about a new job, but Reese is already suspicious. He says they're about to risk everything again, and this time things could go wrong because their partner Straub is involved. Reese describes Straub as a reckless guy who could mess up the entire operation. Joey, however, explains that he's only doing all this because he badly needs money. Joey opens up to Reese. Back in Afghanistan, he got sick, and his friend took his place on duty that night. His friend was killed. Joey has never forgiven himself. His friend had a daughter, and Joey feels responsible for her. He's taking risky jobs to save enough for her education and future. As the team heads out for another job, Finch hacks Sam's phone and hears a recording where Sam tells his boss the entire crew will be killed during the job because it's time to replace them. Worried for Reese, Finch rushes to the robbery site. To maintain cover, Reese slams Finch against a wall while Finch secretly warns him that Sam plans to kill the crew. The robbery goes ahead, but Sam opens fire right after. Most are killed, except Joey. Reese urges him to leave the criminal life, reminding him he's a capable soldier who can start fresh. Joey agrees and leaves with his girlfriend. Meanwhile, Detective Carter finds the crew's radio and contacts Reese, vowing to catch him. Reese simply replies, "Good luck," and tells her to try. Later, Reese visits Sam's house and finds him dead. On the table lies the same box they stole during the robbery, and written on top is a single name, Elias. After that, Finch goes to a hospital pretending he needs help with his pain medication, but in reality, he's there because their next number is Dr. Tillman, who works at that hospital. Reese is already inside the hospital keeping watch. When Dr. Tillman finishes her shift and leaves, he follows her to a bar. There, he notices a man who also seems to be watching her. Reese says it's the second time he's seen this man near her. He quietly bumps into him, steals his wallet, and checks it. The man's name is Andrew, and inside are benzodiazepine pills, a powerful sedative. That's when Reese starts to suspect Andrew might be a threat. Back at the office, Reese talks to Finch. Finch tells him that Dr. Tillman came in early for her shift that morning and has already performed 2 to 3 surgeries. Reese notes that Dr. Tillman seems to be living a double life, spending nights at bars and working long hospital shifts during the day. Meanwhile, Finch looks into Andrew and finds he's an investment banker with multiple rumors of sexual misconduct, though never formally charged. At the same time, Detective Carter reviews CCTV footage from the robbery. She spots something suspicious that Reese was speaking to someone during the incident. She investigates and discovers that man is Finch. Carter pays Finch a visit at his home. She tells him that during the robbery, he was spotted on camera, and someone in a suit was clearly seen speaking to him. Finch calmly explains that the man was just warning him to look away and keep his eyes down. But when Carter starts pressing him with more questions, Finch pretends to be traumatized by the incident. He tells her that it's all a blur, and he doesn't remember much. Before leaving, Carter hands him her business card, saying that if he remembers anything, he should contact her. Meanwhile, Dr. Tillman is once again enjoying a drink while sitting at the bar. Andrew walks up and joins her. He starts talking to her and tries to flirt, and Tillman responds with a smile, playing along. She uses a fake name during their conversation. After a while, she tells him that she's heading outside for some fresh air, and he walks out with her. Andrew then offers to take her back to his place, but Dr. Tillman politely declines, saying she has an early morning shift at work. He suggests they can get together some other day. They both smile and part ways. That night, as Andrew enters his home passcode, Dr. Tillman secretly watches through a camera as she's been monitoring him. Reese tells Finch, then digs deeper into Andrew's past. He finds that in college, Andrew drugged and raped a girl. She was so traumatized she couldn't speak to police for 2 days, and by then, there wasn't enough evidence to charge him. The case was dropped. It turns out that girl was Dr. Tillman's younger sister. After the incident, she fell into a deep depression and eventually took her own life by overdosing on antidepressants and sleeping pills. Now, Dr. Tillman is seeking revenge for her sister's death. Reese realizes that Dr. Tillman is planning to kill Andrew, and now it's up to him to stop her before it's too late. After that, Reese attends a meeting where Dr. Tillman and several others are gathered in a support group. Everyone is there to talk about their personal struggles and past traumas. During the session, when someone brings up a rape case, Dr. Tillman becomes visibly upset and abruptly leaves the room. Reese follows her outside and tries to talk. She introduces herself with a fake name. When Reese gently asks why she came to the meeting, she says she hoped it might help. She has a good job and stable life, but everything changed recently. She saw the man responsible for her friend's death relaxing at a fancy hotel, eating French food with another woman. From his behavior, she could tell he planned to assault her too. That moment shattered her, bringing back all the painful memories. Reese tells Finch they must stop Dr. Tillman from committing murder, but also can't let Andrew go free. So, they plant drugs in his car and leave it outside a police station. Andrew is arrested but released the next day to Reese's frustration. Later, as Andrew returns to his home, Dr. Tillman ambushes him. She knocks him unconscious, kidnaps him, and throws him into a van. On the way, she stops at a local bar to grab a drink, and that's when Reese shows up. He talks to her calmly and tells her that this is not the solution. He reminds her that she's never killed anyone before, and once she crosses that line, she will live with the regret. Her job has always been to save lives, not take them. Reese promises her that Andrew will face consequences for what he did, and gives her his word. Hearing this, Dr. Tillman breaks down in tears. Reese gently asks her for the van keys and assures her that Andrew can no longer hurt anyone. After a moment of hesitation, she finally hands over the keys. After that, Reese releases Andrew and has a serious conversation with him. He threatens him directly, warning that if he ever tries to harm another woman again, Reese will personally kill him with a gun. At first, Andrew acts defiant and refuses to admit he did anything wrong, but when he sees the gun lying on the table and hears the intensity in Reese's voice, he freezes. The threat shakes him to his core. Reese leans in and warns him that no matter where he hides, he'll find him, and when he does, he'll kill him in a way people will remember for centuries. Shaken and terrified, Andrew finally understands the weight of his actions and the real consequences if he ever crosses that line again. The next day, Finch meets with Reese and gives him a new number. This time, the person on the list is a judge named Gates, who is a single parent raising his young son, Sam. Reese starts tailing Gates and soon notices that some men are following him. Before Reese can intervene, a man quickly pulls out a phone from his pocket and throws it into a trash bin, then walks away. Reese retrieves the phone and checks it. Reese discovers that they are going to kidnap Gates' son, Sam. Realizing the threat, Reese immediately alerts Finch. Reese rushes toward Sam's location, but by the time he gets there, a group of men are already surrounding the boy. Reese jumps in to fight, but he's outnumbered. Despite his efforts, he gets hit hard and goes down. While he's on the ground, the attackers grab Sam and take him away, disappearing before Reese can recover. Judge Gates receives a call from an unknown number. The caller threatens him, saying that they have his son and he should wait for their next call. And until then, he should not try to alert any cop or feds, or they will cut his son Sam into pieces. Gates is shaken. Just then, Reese arrives and tells Gates that he knows everything. He promises to help him get his son back safely. At first, the judge suspects that Reese might be behind all this, but eventually, he realizes Reese is genuinely trying to help. He agrees to work with him. Later, Reese meets Detective Fusco and hands him a bullet. He tells Fusco to run ballistics and trace its origin. Reese also gives him information about a man who was recently involved in a kidnapping. He believes this man is connected to Sam's abduction and asks Fusco to dig into it. Finch informs Reese that he has hacked into the cell phone company and managed to trace the location of the kidnapper based on the message sent during Sam's abduction. With that lead, Reese heads to the location. As soon as he gets there, Reese takes down the man. He checks his body and finds a gang symbol tattooed on his chest. Reese immediately realizes that Sam has been kidnapped by a European street gang, which is an extension of a group that used to operate with Pashtun warlords known for their violent kidnappings. It seems they've now expanded their operations into New York. Reese then heads to Judge Gates' home. He reassures the judge that he will do everything to bring Sam back safely. He also tells him about the gang's involvement. Judge Gates gets another call. The voice tells him to exonerate Angela Markham in the case of People vs. Angela Markham or his son will die. Meanwhile, Reese interrogates the captured man, warning that he's never needed more than 16 hours to break someone, and this guy won't be the first. The man cracks and gives up an address where the gang collects its money. Reese heads there, finds a stash of cash, and brings it back to Finch. Finch explains everything that Angela is working with the gang. As a banker, she installed software to launder their money, converting it into clean funds. but after a hit-and-run accident, she got into legal trouble and turned to the gang for help. In court, Judge Gates reluctantly declares Angela innocent. Right after the verdict, he gets a call revealing where to find his son. Gates rushes to the exchange point, but the kidnappers pull guns, ready to kill Sam. Just in time, Reese arrives, dragging Angela at gunpoint. He warns them that if they hurt Sam, he'll shoot Angela. He also reveals he knows all about their money laundering operation and Angela's role in it. A shootout erupts. Reese gains control and rescues both Sam and Judge Gates. Later, Finch anonymously leaves a file on the counselor's desk with proof of Angela's crimes. The case against her is reopened. Finally, Reese and Finch lead police to Angela's hideout, where she's found with gang members and stacks of illegal cash. They're all arrested on the spot. Now Reese is working undercover as a driver for Zoe Morgan. Zoe is now at the top of Finch's list, which means her life is in danger. Before leaving, Zoe double-checks with her driving service to confirm her usual driver was truly replaced. On the other end, Finch, posing as a company representative, assures her the driver is sick and they've sent a top replacement. Zoe agrees and gets in the car with Reese. On the way, she stops to meet shady drug dealers and receives a mysterious package, which Reese suspects might be a weapon. Meanwhile, Finch searches Zoe's apartment and finds a hidden gun under her table, raising suspicions. But later, Zoe meets the chief of police and hands him the gun, sarcastically noting that his officer shouldn't leave his weapon in restrooms, especially since the officer is his nephew. When police offer her money in thanks, she interrupts and demands they include the word gratitude. She also insists they drop the investigation against Councilman Rush. Under pressure, the chief agrees. After this, Reese tells Finch that Zoe could have many enemies because of the nature of her work. She does people favors, solves their problems, and in doing so, ends up knowing a lot of their secrets. Many people might be annoyed or even threatened by her, so they need to quickly find out who wants her dead and why. Zoe meets a man who hires her to retrieve a recording from a reporter because the recording contains sensitive information about the man's boss, Lawson, who owns a major pharmaceutical company. The recording reveals an affair. Zoe is paid well and is asked to deliver the recording as soon as possible. She agrees to take the job. The next day, Zoe meets with the reporter and successfully retrieves the recording. But as she hands it over, two men suddenly attack her. Just in time, Reese shows up from behind, takes them down, and rescues Zoe from the scene. Later, Reese explains everything to her, and Zoe reveals that she had made a backup copy of the recording. When she plays it, a girl's voice is heard saying that she can't hide the truth any longer and that she needs to tell someone about what happened. When Finch analyzes the recording, he discovers that the voice belongs to a woman named Dana, who used to work at the pharmaceutical company's office. She had mysteriously died 2 years ago from a brain aneurysm at just 27 years old, which seems highly suspicious. To investigate further, Finch disguises himself as a wealthy investor and visits the pharmaceutical company. He finally meets Lawson, and as he's given a tour of the facility, he also meets Killer, the CEO of the company. Both of them assure Finch that his investment will multiply significantly. During the tour, Finch learns that the company is working on a new drug for migraines. Meanwhile, Reese meets Zoe again and tells her that Dana wasn't killed because of her affair. She was murdered because she was about to expose a scandal related to the company's new drug. Zoe adds that Dana's system access was suddenly denied just 5 days before the clinical trials, and she was transferred out of her department. Zoe then suggests they break into the company to uncover the truth. Together, they sneak into the building and retrieve confidential files. They discover that many people died during the clinical trials of the new drug. If the drug is released publicly, even more lives could be at risk. But before they can escape, Lawson's men show up and catch both of them. Just then, Mr. Keller and Lawson arrive. Zoe quickly tells them that she has already mailed the incriminating report to a friend. She offers to return with the report if they let her go. Mr. Keller agrees to her offer. Before leaving, Zoe kisses Reese and secretly slips her hairpin into his hand. As Lawson's man prepares to inject Reese with a poisonous substance, Reese breaks free and jabs the needle into the attacker instead. Meanwhile, Finch takes Mr. Keller to a diner. There, he reveals that he has sold all his shares in Keller's company and has also shorted their stock. He mentions receiving a tip that the company's senior management is about to face legal action. This shocks Keller, who begins to realize the seriousness of the situation. Then Finch tells Reese that Zoe has already sent her location to him. Reese quickly rushes to the location. He fights off the guards and safely rescues her from captivity. After making sure she's okay, he drives her back home and drops her off safely. Carter and Fusco get assigned a homicide case. A man has been shot at a local grocery store. CCTV footage shows a mysterious man talking to the victim right before the shooting. To find this man, they request help from the local police, but the local cops say they can't help much because no one in that neighborhood talks, because it's a gang-controlled area where everyone protects their own. Reese is already tracking the witness, Charlie Burton, whose number came from Finch's machine. Noticing Charlie's nervous behavior, Reese spots suspicious cars pulling up and quickly warns him that he's in danger. They rush out, but gunmen open fire and Charlie is shot in the shoulder. Reese helps him escape into a rival gang's building, where they hide. While treating him, Reese asks what really happened. Charlie says he hid during the shooting at the store, then approached a wounded man who gave him a message for someone named Elias. Charlie admits he didn't fully understand what the message meant. He never went to the police because he knows the whole neighborhood is corrupted, as many cops are on gang payroll. Reese assures him that he'll protect him, not just for his sake, but because the kids in this neighborhood need people like him to survive. On the other side, Detectives Carter and Fusco meet with the wife of the victim, Benny. They ask her if she knows what Benny was doing at the grocery store that night, but she snaps at them in anger. She says she didn't know anything because Benny never told her. She also warns them that Elias will come after them for revenge. When they ask her about Elias, she coldly says that Elias's people don't socialize. They do things their own way, but she's sure they'll soon wipe out all interference from this neighborhood. Later, a local contact tips Carter and Fusco that 5 or 6 men were seen chasing someone who looked just like their witness. He says they went into a building where even the police don't dare to go. While checking nearby, they come across a bartender who had captured some video footage near that spot. The footage gives them a lead. A police officer steps forward, offering to pull any related files on the guy they're after. Meanwhile, Reese and Charlie are still hiding in a room, trying to think their next move through. Reese applies some medication to Charlie's gunshot wound, saying it'll help ease the pain. Then he hands Charlie a gun, but Charlie refuses to take it. Right after, Reese attaches a phone cable to an old wall socket, uses it to re-establish contact with Finch. Finch quickly guides them to a safe exit route out of the building. But just as Reese and Charlie step out of the room, a young boy sees them. Charlie recognizes him immediately. It's one of his students. The boy secretly lets them hide in his home and says his dad isn't around, so it's safe for now. Soon after, some Russians come around the neighborhood asking if anyone saw someone unfamiliar in the area. They approach the boy too, but he firmly says that he hasn't seen anyone. He also refuses to let them inside his house, saying his father strictly told him not to let strangers in. He adds that in this neighborhood, people respect each other's privacy. Hearing that, the Russians leave, and Charlie and Reese quietly slip out of the building. Reese then calls Fusco and tells him to wait for them at the riverbank. After that, Reese, Charlie, and a man from the rival gang head toward the riverbank. But just then, Fusco receives a call, and suddenly, someone sneaks up from behind and knocks him out. Turns out the man is actually working for Elias. On the other side, Detective Carter keeps following the lead and finally talks to the man who was chasing the witness recently. But then she discovers the shocking truth that he's not just a witness. He is Elias himself. Meanwhile, Reese is on the boat along with Charlie and the man from rival gang. But the man reveals everything. He tells him that he is actually helping Elias in his own way, and at first Reese doesn't quite get it. That's when Charlie suddenly pulls a gun on Reese and orders him to drop his weapon and tie himself up because he is Elias himself. Elias then shoots the man in the leg and declares that the Brighton Beach territory now belongs to him. After that, he turns to Reese and offers him a job. He says that initially he was planning to kill Reese, but after seeing his incredible skills, he's had a change of heart. He wants Reese to team up with him. He says they could do great things together and maybe even enjoy it. Later, one of Elias's men picks him up and they drive off together. Right after that, Elias's people take over completely as they eliminate the previous crime boss of the area. The next day, Finch informs Reese about the next number on the list. The man's name is Wallace. As soon as Wallace lands at the airport, a few men are already there waiting to follow him, but he cleverly evades them and slips away. Finch tells Reese that Wallace is returning to the country after 24 years. Curious to know more, Finch visits an old friend of his, also from Germany, because Wallace also has ties to Germany. His friend and Wallace had served together during the war. There, Finch learns about Wallace's past mission, and also finds out that Wallace's wife had died in an accident. After that tragedy, his friends betrayed him and had him captured, while they all settled in the U.S. Meanwhile, Reese discovers that Wallace visited a cemetery plot, and there he finds an old coin, one of those rare types, which confirms that Wallace had definitely been there. On the other side, Wallace meets one of his old friends, but instead of reconciliation, he kills the man for betraying him years ago. Finch tells Reese about the friends involved in Wallace's past, so Reese visits one of their apartments only to find the man already dead. Realizing time is running out, they rush to protect the remaining ones. Meanwhile, Wallace meets another one of his old friends at a restaurant. On the other side, Reese investigates the previous location where Wallace had killed one of his friends. There, he uncovers more information about the rest of the group. Back at the restaurant, Wallace uses a small, sharp prick dipped in poison and discreetly stabs his friend in the neck. The man collapses right there on the floor. Reese arrives just in time and quickly questions the dying man, saying he can help if he tells him what happened. The friend confesses that years ago, all four of them betrayed Wallace. They handed him over to the Americans, who later killed both Wallace and his wife. But Wallace survived, and now he's back to take revenge. After that, Wallace goes to find his third friend. Finch had already called this man, trying to warn and save him, but the man didn't believe Finch. And just as Wallace is about to shoot him, the man makes a desperate phone call. He tells Wallace that his wife, Anja, is actually alive. At first, Wallace doesn't believe him, but the man proves it by letting Wallace speak to her on the phone. However, even after hearing her voice, Wallace is overwhelmed with rage. He throws the man off a construction building, killing him. After that, Wallace goes to Anja's house, but Finch and Reese have already taken her to safety. When Reese returns to the house, Wallace ambushes him and knocks him unconscious. He then ties Reese up and prepares to use his interrogation tools, saying that no one has ever remained silent in front of him. Meanwhile, Finch calls the detective Fusco and informs him to send help immediately. Finch eventually gets to talk to Anja, and she opens up saying Wallace was always buried in his work. He never cared for her, and their relationship slowly lost all love and connection. That's why she eventually turned to the Americans for help and separated from him. Meanwhile, at Anja's house, Wallace notices a photograph. It's of a young girl. To his shock, he realizes that he has a daughter he never knew about. Just as Wallace is about to kill Reese, Fusco arrives in time and saves him. Wallace manages to escape. Later, Wallace finds his daughter and takes her at gunpoint to a nearby park. There, he forces her to call Anja and tell her to come to the park too. When Anja arrives, Wallace asks his daughter what she thinks about her father. She replies that her father died honorably for his country. Hearing this, Wallace is stunned to see that Anja never turned his daughter against him. She still holds respect for him. Then Wallace turns to Anja and asks why she left him. Anja explains that their relationship had lost all love. He had changed so much as he is always consumed by his missions, and she simply couldn't take it anymore. As Wallace, overwhelmed with rage, tries to aim his gun at Anja, Reese arrives and shoots him just in time. Finch quickly takes Anja and her daughter away to safety. Meanwhile, Reese stays with Wallace and sits him down on a bench. He notices Wallace's gun. It's empty. Reese realizes Wallace never intended to kill Anja, he just wanted Reese to shoot him to end his own pain. Just then, the sound of gunfire draws the police to the scene. As they arrive, Reese quietly slips away, leaving Wallace behind. The episode begins with a flashback to Carter's past, where she used to serve in the army as an investigating officer. Her job was extracting the truth from terrorists and suspects during interrogations. Back in the present, Detective Carter is speaking with Mrs. Kovac, a woman who once again wants her abusive husband to be released. Despite the fact that her husband has violently attacked her multiple times, she still pleads for his release. Carter calmly hands her a card and says, "If her husband ever hits again, just call this number. Wherever she is, she'll come and get her safely." After that, Carter is assigned to another case involving a young boy who was recently shot and killed in a drive-by shooting. When Carter sees the body, she immediately recognizes him. She says that 6 months ago, this same boy had given a testimony against a man named Hector. But later, the court canceled that testimony. Now it seems Hector finally got to him. After that, Finch once again calls Reese and informs him that this time, the name on the list is their mutual friend, Detective Carter. Hearing this, both of them become extremely worried, realizing that now even her life is in danger. The next day, Reese follows Carter as she has breakfast with her son, then visits Hector's auto shop. When she questions him, Hector claims he was with his girlfriend and refuses a search without a warrant. Frustrated, Carter leaves. Meanwhile, Finch plans to plant a surveillance camera in the police station and starts compiling a list of threats to Carter. After narrowing it down, only a few serious suspects remain. But Finch's biggest concern is protecting Carter, even though she's determined to arrest Reese. Later, Carter arrests one of her informants and questions him about Elias. He denies knowing anything, but she pays him and tells him to stay alert, promising more cash if he finds out anything about Elias or Hector. On the other side, Reese receives the toy from Finch, the one with the hidden camera planted in it. Finch asks him to reposition the toy on Carter's desk so that the camera always stays aimed at her, allowing them to keep watch on her 24/7. Later, Carter questions the shopkeeper where the boy who was shot had last stopped to buy a soda. She urges him to quietly tell her if he saw anything that night, but the man refuses. He says that even if he had seen something, he couldn't talk because if he did, his life would be in danger. Then we flash back to the past where we see Carter during her time in the army. She is interrogating Yusuf. Yusuf insists that he only delivers vegetables and fruits, but Carter has intel suggesting he's involved with Al-Qaeda. Eventually, Yusuf breaks down and agrees to give her information on one condition. He asks for protection for himself and his family. Carter promises him that she will keep him and his children safe. Back in the present, Reese breaks into Hector's garage. He grabs a few weapons and drives off in a car. Meanwhile, Carter receives a call from Mrs. Kovac, who seems upset. Carter rushes over to the house and finds Mr. Kovac already tied up. From the bathroom, she hears Mrs. Kovac calling out, saying she is safe now. Just then, Reese calls Carter. He tries to reason with her and warns her that her life is in serious danger. But Carter, still firm, says she's always known her job came with risk. Reese tells her this time it's different because someone really wants her dead. That's when Carter finally starts to wonder that who gave him this intel. Reese tells her he just wants her to survive, and adds that if she truly wants to bring Hector down, she needs to know something important. He has a whole arsenal at his fingertips. After that, the police raid Hector's garage and find a large stash of guns hidden inside. Later, Detective Carter finally meets her informant again. He seems nervous and tells her he was helpless and apologizes, but suddenly he pulls out a gun and shoots her. Luckily, Reese arrives just in time and shoots the informant. Fortunately, Carter is wearing her bulletproof vest, which saves her life. This whole event triggers memories of her days in Afghanistan. She remembers when her fellow soldiers informed her they had found some bombs. When she asks about Yusuf, her colleagues reveal a harsh truth that they didn't save him. In fact, Yusuf was killed because he was suspected of being one of the enemy. Carter is shaken. She had made a promise to protect Yusuf and his family, but her teammate reminds her that never made a promise she can't keep. That's the moment Carter decides to leave the army and join the police force, hoping to find justice on her own terms. Next, we see Carter having breakfast with her son again. He asks her how she's feeling, and she assures him with a smile that she'll be fine very soon. Next, Finch tells Reese that 4 people have come up on the list: Ryan, Matt, Wendy, and Paula. Reese says they all seem random, but Finch believes there must be a connection between them. He also shares that Ryan's number came up first, so he is probably in the most danger. They need to act fast to save the rest. As soon as Reese reaches Ryan's apartment, he finds that Ryan is already dead. However, he picks up Ryan's phone and steps outside to talk to Finch. Reese says he doesn't want to lose the other 3 and can't track them all alone. He insists that Finch also needs to come out into the field and says he'll give him a backup role. Reese asks Fusco to track Paula while he follows Wendy, discovering she works at a parlor. Posing as a customer, Reese tries to approach her, but Wendy senses trouble and escapes through the back. Meanwhile, Finch tracks Matt, but his car explodes before he can intervene. Reese learns Wendy has gone home and follows her there, only to find Paula already with her. The women reveal they witnessed an accident days ago and split a large sum of money with 2 others. Suddenly, a man bursts in and attacks. Reese fights him off, but by the time he returns, Wendy and Paula have fled. Reese searches their house and finds a stack of hospital bills and letters. When Finch checks at the hospital, he finds out that the women's mother was recently admitted due to a broken hip. Reese assumes they might have used the money to cover the medical expenses, but Finch reveals that their home is heavily mortgaged too, and they were probably trying to pay off their house. Reese then decides to go to the hospital to check on them personally. On the other hand, the CIA officer Snow contacts Carter and asks her about Reese. She tells them she doesn't know who he is. She says that man once saved her life, but she never spoke to him and didn't even see his face properly. They warn her that he is extremely dangerous and has killed many people. At first, Carter doesn't believe them, but then Snow hands her his card and asks her to inform them if Reese ever contacts her again. Meanwhile, Reese finally arrives at the hospital and speaks to Wendy. She tells him that she thought the money would solve their problems, but now she realizes it was a mistake. They should have just called 911 and left the scene that night. Reese asks her where the money is. Wendy tells him the cash is hidden under her mom's hospital bed. She brings the money and prepares to leave with Reese. Just then, the killers kidnap Paula and send Wendy a photo, instructing her to come to the basement of the hospital immediately. Reese calls Detective Carter and informs her that the killers are at the hospital, so she should come quickly. Carter thanks him, acknowledging that he recently saved her life. Wendy takes the money to the exchange point, but just as the handoff is about to happen, Reese attacks the man. He kills him on the spot. Then he returns the money to Wendy and tells her to keep it because they did the right thing, and now no one will come after them. He urges her to leave quickly and stay safe. Meanwhile, Finch reviews the spy camera footage and realizes that Carter has informed Snow about Reese being at the hospital. As Reese exits the hospital, Snow and Carter block his path with their car. Suddenly, another CIA operative shoots Reese with a sniper. Finch quickly rushes in with a car to help him escape. Reese barely manages to survive and tries to get away, but Carter intercepts both of them. She holds them at gunpoint. After a moment of hesitation, Carter makes a choice. She lets Reese go, understanding that he is not the threat they think he is. Finch takes Reese to a hospital and pays a surgeon whatever amount he asks. He He begs him to save Reese's life. The surgeon immediately performs the surgery and successfully stabilizes Reese. Meanwhile, Detective Carter, unable to use her own computer because the CIA is monitoring it, logs into Fusco's system. She pulls up a photo of Finch from the night of the robbery and traces his phone number from police records. Though the number is offline, she requests the telecom company to provide all the data associated with it. On the other side, Finch gifts Reese a new apartment. When Reese arrives at the building, a man named Trask, who handles the security for the entire building, shows him around and welcomes him. He tells Reese that if he needs anything at all, he should just let him know. Just then, Finch arrives and shows Reese around the new apartment. He says he wanted to give Reese something nice and also share something important. He reveals that he specifically chose this location because a new number has come up on the list, and this time, it's Trask's name. Since Reese is still recovering and sitting in a chair, he asks Finch to check Trask's apartment. When Finch goes there, he finds dozens of photos of a young woman named Lily, who lives in another apartment in the building. It becomes clear that Trask has been stalking her. After that, Finch investigates Lily and learns that she's a chef at a well-known restaurant. When he checks her home, he discovers that someone has hidden a camera inside. He removes the camera immediately to protect her privacy. Later, he goes to Lily's restaurant to keep an eye on her. While there, Fusco calls Finch and asks about Reese's health. He also warns Finch that Detective Carter is onto them as she's pulled his entire location history and is tracking everything. Finch calmly tells him not to worry about it. After that, Finch calls Carter and tells her that she'll never be able to kill them because he changed their location data earlier that morning. But Carter replies that her goal was not to kill Reese, it was to catch him. She says CIA had brainwashed her previously, and she is on their side now. Then Finch tells her to look behind because he's sitting right there. They meet at a hotel, where Carter immediately asks about Reese. Finch assures her he's doing fine. When Carter asks why he brought her there, Finch points toward a man and says his name is Derek. He's about to become a violent criminal, and Carter has the chance to stop him before anything happens. At first, she finds it hard to believe. Finch explains that since his friend is out of action for a while, she's the one who'll have to step in and handle things now. With that, he quietly walks away, leaving Carter with a new purpose. Trask meets Lily's supposed boyfriend and threatens him, saying he's going to kill him. Just as he's about to act, Reese causes a distraction by lighting a fire nearby. A crowd quickly gathers, forcing Trask to back off and stay quiet. Later, Reese meets with Trask at his apartment. He shows him the photos and holds him at gunpoint, demanding the truth. Trask insists he has misunderstood him because he stole those photos from a penthouse, which actually belongs to Rick, Lily's boyfriend. Meanwhile, Finch confirms Trask's story because he finds hidden camera evidence supporting the claim. At the same time, Rick sneaks into Lily's room and tries to force himself on her. But just then, Trask and Reese arrive. They both confront Rick and beat him up badly. In the struggle, Rick ends up falling out of the window. Later, Lily tells the police that Rick had been harassing her for a long time. He wanted to date her, but she had refused him many times. He couldn't take no for an answer and started stalking her. When he entered her house, things got physical, and during the scuffle, she pushed him, which led to him falling out of the window. Meanwhile, Detective Carter keeps following the lead Finch gave her. She tracks the suspect to a bar. As he tries to kill someone, Carter storms in and catches him red-handed. The next day, Detective Carter meets Reese directly. She apologizes to him and says she didn't know that Snow would try to kill him, but Reese asks why she wants to meet him in the first place. Carter tells him she has a lot of questions, and if he truly wants to help, he should tell her where they get all their information. Reese simply says that the only thing Carter needs to understand is this: whenever they get information about someone, that person is either already in danger or about to cause danger. Then he hands her a small note and tells her that if she wants to help them, she should look into this because her file is sealed. After that, Reese meets Finch again and asks if he knows anything more about Andrea, whose name is the latest one to come up on the list of people in danger. Finch explains that Andrea has always been a hard-working woman. She comes from a very poor background and has worked hard all her life to build a better future for herself. He also reveals that she took out student loans and is deeply in debt. Andrea is in court, representing a man named Terrence who is facing drug charges. She requests extra time from the judge to present a witness. After the hearing, she steps outside and strictly tells Terrence not to speak to anyone. But Terrence still talks to his parole officer Dominic and insists that the drugs aren't his, though he admits they were found in his place. So legally, they're considered his. Later, Andrea goes to see Chris to collect Terrence's blood test report, but she doesn't get it because the system is running too slow. Meanwhile, Reese is keeping an eye on Andrea when he gets a call. Carter on the call says she's collected all of Andrea's records and reveals that Andrea has been a troublemaker since childhood. She even has larceny charges on her record. Andrea, unaware of this, is on her way home when suddenly, a young man points a gun at her from behind, but Reese arrives just in time to stop the attack. The gunman manages to escape, but in the struggle, Reese grabs a steroid dose from him, which might be a critical clue. Reese hands over the mystery steroid injection to Carter and asks her to find out where someone might have obtained it. Meanwhile, Andrea arranges a meeting of Terrence with his son. Terrence warmly tells the boy that he'll be out soon because Andrea is helping him a lot. Andrea then suggests they get his test done from an independent lab since the results from the government lab are coming in too slowly. Terrence agrees and thanks her, saying he can't pay her, but he can at least show his appreciation. On the other side, Carter calls Reese and shares the possible location where those steroids might be found. She also warns him to be cautious because it's a fighter's spot, and she doesn't want him caught in the middle of anything violent. When Reese arrives at the location Carter mentioned, he spots the same guy from before. He approaches and starts asking questions, but the man suddenly attacks him, and a fight breaks out. The suspect tries to escape, but as he runs into the street, a speeding truck hits and kills him on the spot. Later, Finch digs into the dead man's identity and finds out his name was Alonzo. He's an ex-con who served 3 years in prison. Although there's no direct link between Alonzo and Andrea, Finch discovers a strong connection that Alonzo and Terrence share the same parole officer Dominic. That coincidence is just too big to ignore. Then Reese goes to meet Dominic. He finds out that the officer has been taking large bribes from his parolees to keep them out of jail. Reese confronts him directly. A fight breaks out, and within seconds, Reese takes down Dominic. He then puts him in his own car, pours alcohol over him, and anonymously calls 911, setting him up for a DUI. With that done, Reese quietly disappears from the scene. After this, Reese starts shadowing Finch again. This time, Finch is meeting his friend Will, who is about to leave the country for good. Later, Carter calls Reese and asks why he went after Dominic like that. Reese explains everything and says she needed solid proof. He also tells her their job isn't over yet because they still need to find out who tried to have Andrea killed. Only by finding that person can they truly protect Andrea. So, they dive deeper into the investigation. Then Carter calls Reese again and tells that she couldn't get anything out of Dominic, but Reese reveals that he actually bought them time because while Dominic was at the station, he sneaked into his house and took his laptop. On the other hand, Finch checks Dominic's account statements and is stunned to see large sums of money coming in. Finch figures out that he gets paid more every time one of his parolees goes back to prison. That means the more people he sends back, the richer he gets. Finch also notices that Dominic hasn't received any payment yet for Terrence's case, which means Andrea is still in danger. Meanwhile, Andrea is at the library working on her case when someone tries to attack her, but just in time, Reese arrives and saves her life. Reese finally explains everything to her. She realizes that when she tried to get the drug report earlier, the officer intentionally misplaced her report. That makes her certain Terrence is innocent, and she has to reach him. But Reese stops her and hands her a stun stick. He says she can't go anywhere until they figure out who really wants her dead. He tells her to stay safe at home and promises to return once he has answers. Meanwhile, as Carter digs deeper, she notices something strange, that every parolee under Dominic's supervision is a single parent. That means when they get sent back to jail, their children end up in foster care, and the foster system pays $800 a month per child, so someone is making serious money off this. Reese then realizes it's not the parolees fueling the scheme, as it's the foster care system paying up. Carter adds that Dominic has been working with a company called DFS, which is managed by a couple named Mary and Paul. She decides to pay them a visit. When Carter meets Mary and Paul, she questions them about the 6 foster children under their care, including Terrence's son, Jacob. But she notices something suspicious, as they only live in a 1-bedroom apartment. So, she asks bluntly about the other 6 children's sleeping space. The couple starts getting nervous. Eventually, they admit that only Jacob is actually staying with them. One child ran away, and the rest don't even exist. Just then, Reese gets a call from Finch, and he tells Carter to let the couple go for now. He's discovered who's really behind all of this is a woman named Gloria Copeland, who oversees all the employees in DFS. Finch reveals that Gloria is actually the mastermind behind the entire operation. Reese is currently following her, and she seems to be heading toward Andrea's location. But on the way, Gloria unexpectedly stops to buy flowers, shocking Reese. Meanwhile, Andrea arrives at Chris's office once again. She urgently asks him to call the judge and stop Terrence's prison transfer, but Chris coldly replies that he can't do that because he was the one who told the judge to approve the transfer in the first place. Andrea is stunned. That's when it all becomes clear that Chris has been working with Dominic the whole time. Chris admits that she's a great lawyer, but says it will not matter anymore because no one is going to find out what he's done. He tries to lead her down to the basement to kill her, but Andrea fights back. She knocks him down and escapes. Right then, Reese arrives just in time. Chris tries to run again, but before he can get far, Carter shows up and arrests him on the spot. Finally, Terrence is freed and Andrea sincerely thanks Reese and the police for everything they've done.